What is going on, Steno Squad? Welcome to the Lady Steno podcast, where I chat with the brightest real-time providers in the field of stenography. And if you are seeking plenty of freebies, priceless advice, and tips for perfecting your steno skills, check out the new Facebook group, Steno Student Success. Anissa, are you ready to go on the record?
I am absolutely ready, Katiana. Let's roll.
Anissa is a pioneer in the world of captioning. She has dominated the field in all sectors, from leadership position, entrepreneurship ventures, delivering education, curriculum development, and technological innovation. Steno Squad, when I say all sectors, I am so serious. Anissa is a captioner with 28 years of experience. She's the creator of Dictionary Jumpstart, which is a real-time dictionary building software for stenographers. She is a past president of the Michigan Association of Professional Court Reporters and the author of 4 books. Anissa is no stranger to the microphone. She has presented seminars on real-time, captioning, and dictionary building for state and national associations, workshops, and schools across the country. Now, Anissa, take a minute and fill in some blanks from that intro and give us a glimpse into your personal life.
Well, I live in Boise, Idaho, and we live right on the Boise River, which has a beautiful green belt. And so I love to get out and walk the green belt and bike on the green belt. I love fitness. I like eating healthy, and I'm a vegetable freak, although I'm not a vegetarian. I love comedy. I love live theater. Anything that makes me laugh is a plus because I think laughter is great for our souls. And of course, I love spending time with my family.
So let's start talking about your steno life. How did you hear about stenography and what made you decide to start learning about it?
Great question. Somehow I wound up during a career day in high school in our Eaton County Courthouse in Michigan, and I was sitting in with a court reporter for the day. I don't know if I chose to do that or if I was assigned. I really don't remember, but it was the best thing that could have ever happened because I watched her throughout the day and the decision was made. I was going to become a stenographer come heck or high water because I was just completely mesmerized by the steno machine. And so I remember going home from school that day. I was 14 years old and I said to my mom, I know what I want to do. And of course she didn't believe me, but then did take me to the college to find out more about the program, and the rest is history.
So how old were you when you started the program?
I was 18 years old when I started right out of high school and got through the program in 2 years. I went to a school called Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan. And, of course, made lifelong friends there, and it was a great experience to go away to school. And, it was an awesome experience.
It was sitting in with a stenographer in a courthouse that made you fall in love with steno, but you never actually did start working as a court reporter. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You're exactly right. I have never worked as a court reporter, and I've never taken a deposition other than what was required of me during school for my internship was the last time I was in a courthouse. I graduated and couldn't find a job as a court reporter, and one of my classmates called me and said, "Hey, do you want to learn how to do closed captioning?" And I said, "What is that?" And her 3 things were, you get to work from home, no attorneys, and the creme de la creme, no transcripts. And all through school, I kept telling my instructors, I'm not doing transcripts. And they kind of looked at me as if I was an alien. And I said, no, you don't understand. Like, I don't want to do transcripts. I just want to write because I love that machine so much. It's so cool. And so I went and interviewed a woman Her name is Janet Cassidy. She came from the National Captioning Institute, started her own company in West Michigan, and grabbed 3 of us from her alma mater, Ferris State. And she said to all 3 of us, I'm going to give you 6 months to train to be a captioner. And she gave us professional training. And that was how my captioning career began.
What did that training consist of?
That training consisted of completely throwing out the theory I had just learned in school, which was not a real-time theory, and learning a real-time theory from scratch. It also consisted of building a dictionary from scratch because we had nothing. I mean, this was many years ago. It was pretty brutal. I was a 20-year-old naive kid, and I just thought, I'm just going to do what she tells me to do. And so it was very intense. It was 5 days a week, 40 hours a week for 6 months straight, and it was a ton of work. It was literally all consuming. I mean, my brain only thought in steno for those 6 months. But I was in the right place at the right time, and it was one of the biggest blessings of my life, because I had 6 months of crazy professional training that a lot of people would kill for. I attribute where I'm at in my career to the people who have helped me along the way with professional training.
Everything you've told us so far about your educational experiences seem pretty phenomenal. And I know now you are doing a lot in the education field for stenographers. What was it that made you decide to become an educator?
This was not planned. I will just tell you that I couldn't have seen this in the crystal ball if I tried. My mother was a school teacher. I always thought, I never want to be a teacher. But it's fun to be a teacher when it's something that you're really passionate about. And how I kind of fell into this was a wonderful woman by the name of Judy Brentano, who was a pioneer in our captioning industry, created a program called Caption Masters through the auspices of NCRA and Ole Miss, also with Jan Bounds and Heidi Thomas. Unfortunately, we lost Judy a few years ago, and she realized when she was sick that she needed someone to take over teaching Caption Masters, and she called me and asked me if I would take it over, and I said, I don't know that I can do that. And she said, yes, you can, and you will, and you're going to do it. And I said, well, can I at least have a couple days to think about it? And she said, sure, I'll give you 2 days. I'll call you back, and you'll say yes, and we'll be good to go. And if anyone who is listening to this knows who Judy Brentano is, you will totally relate to that and go, yep, that's Judy. And so that's how I fell into this. And it started out with teaching Caption Masters, which is a 4-month course that I still currently teach. But then it segued into CART training and one-on-one real-time training and other things that we offer. We have something kind of at every level at learntocaption.com, so that if someone who just wants to barely get their toe wet in the water to someone who's like full force, I want to become the best real-timer possible, or even more so, someone who says, I want a complete change and I want to do captioning, whether it's CART captioning or broadcast captioning. So that's how I got into the education thing. That was about 7-8 years ago. And this is what I never knew I always wanted to do. I'm having fun and I love my students.
I was on your website. I saw that there are a ton of courses that you offer. There really is something out there for every stenographer. Even for those who don't know anything about steno, you have a 24-month course to take people from 0 to 225. I know it's a lot of hard work, but it definitely is worth it and rewarding.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's nothing that is more rewarding, more fun than to see someone go from point A to point B, and to know that you've been able to watch the progress along the way and see them succeed, whether it's someone who just says, I want better real time, someone who says, I need to pass my CRR, want to become a captioner, whatever it may be. It really is a ton of fun. And it's just fun to reinvigorate people's passion for that steno machine, because I really truly believe that we're all constantly learning, evolving, building, changing, becoming better, because if you're not, you're kind of stagnant, and there's no fun to be stagnant. So I really hope to always be inspiring people to keep improving, because I mean, I'm constantly improving. I don't know all the answers yet, just like we're all learning in our real time. Shortening writing is a huge thing, big, huge fan of that. Yeah, it's always evolving, and it's fun when people are reinvigorated in their profession.
One of our last guests on the podcast mentioned that her agency had you train all of their court reporters on improving their real time. I don't remember the name of the course. Do you know what I'm talking about? She mentioned something about word boundaries.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. I've had a handful of court reporting firms, and one in particular that has hired me to work with all of their court reporters. And we work in the training option on our site called the Translation Tune-Up. And what they do is they watch a webinar. It's about an hour and 20 minutes that teaches them how to edit in a different way. The only reason I know how to edit the way I do is because I was professionally taught. After I worked with 100 people, 200 people, 500 people, 700 people, I found that I wasn't really finding anyone who was taught to edit the same way I was. I know that editing can be a big part of improving your real time. So the webinar talks about editing differently, looking at Steno a little differently,
What does that
and
mean?
defining every single untranslate all by itself as what it is a big piece of it. So even if it's not a bona fide word, to define every single untranslate as the piece that it actually is. And I've talked to the programmers at different software vendors, and they say to me, that's great, because artificial intelligence is going to work better when it knows from concrete definitions, this is what she meant by this, so then this stroke has to be this. So we teach them to edit differently, define every single untranslate all by itself, and then define with surrounding strokes to create root words only. I also go into a big thing with my students about covering their bases, putting words in as many different ways as they may write them. We're not all perfect writers. So in order to have the dictionary compensate for our inadequacies, which we all have in some way, shape, or form, we really make sure that the dictionary is really well developed. So the Translation Tune-Up, they watch that webinar, and then they meet with me for a half an hour over GoToMeeting online, and I will give them at least 5 real-time tips. I will also help them resolve word boundary issues. Word boundary issues, if we're writing a prefix and a suffix the exact same way, that's more than likely going to result in a visual word boundary issue. So we just kind of make sure that things are differentiated.
Steno Squad, the process Anissa just described is pure gold. If you want to improve your real time and reduce editing time, you need her latest book, Simpler Syllables. Simpler Syllables will guide you on what prefixes, word pieces, and suffixes to add to your dictionary, along with Anissa's suggested Steno outlines. And if you are listening while this is being premiered live on Facebook, this is the time to drop a comment for your chance to win a copy of the book Simpler Syllables. One lucky person will be selected at random, and you could be the winner. Anissa, is there such thing as having too big of a dictionary?
That's a great question. No, I really don't think there is. Back in the day, they used to say, don't have a dictionary over this size because it takes too much processing for your computer. Of course, those days are long, long gone. My dictionary, I think, is around 250,000 words. All of Dictionary Jumpstart is in my own personal dictionary. There's no magic number. There's no right or wrong. The only thing I would say is that if someone's working with a dictionary that wasn't always theirs, let's say a mentor gave them a dictionary or something like that, that it's really important to truly make it yours and to get out everything that isn't yours so that we don't have surprises popping up. And this is really super important when we're talking about captioning.
I know one thing that makes me really nervous about broadcast captioning is the fact that it's there. Like, you're writing and they're seeing it, and some people are hearing it and others are just reading it, and they just know if you're doing it right or if you're not doing it right. And I can imagine that not just me, but causes a lot of us stenographers anxiety. So I want to take you back to maybe a moment where you experienced that kind of anxiety, something that you would call your worst moment while real timing, and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. The first 2 years that I was on air was extremely difficult for me because that was like my first real reporting job because I was never a reporter beforehand. So my first 2 years as a captioner, I call my toddler years, and they were brutal. My first job was captioning on the campus of Arizona State University for their PBS station, and I captioned a show every evening called Horizon. And I just had this premonition one night that my boss was probably at home watching me caption. And I just all of a sudden felt this angst. And the next day I went in the office and he said to me, "Hey, I caught Horizon last night." And I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Yeah, there was a word that they said that you kind of skirted around. Do you remember what that word was?" And I said, "Yes, I believe the word has something to do with fruit." And he said, "Anissa, the word was fruition." And I just looked at him and I said, "I don't know that word." And he said, "You need to work on your vocabulary." And that was that was a monumental moment in my life, for someone to say to me, you've got to broaden your vocabulary. And I took it very, very much to heart because I was so embarrassed. I got one of those, calendars that you flip the page and it's like a word a day. I started reading more. I started looking up any word that I didn't know the meaning of. I mean, I did a lot of vocabulary work because I just felt that, if I was going to be a successful captioner, I better know what the heck I'm writing. So that also probably kind of segued a little bit into trying to create Dictionary Jumpstart, create a way for someone to get a vast amount of vocabulary into their dictionary in a short amount of time.
What exactly is Dictionary Jumpstart?
Dictionary Jumpstart I affectionately refer to as my second child. My first one's Real. Dictionary Jumpstart was created during my child's first year of life. It's a program, anybody can use it because you're just using Dictionary Jumpstart to create an RTF file, which then can be imported into any CAT software on the market today. The cool thing about Jumpstart is I've done all the copious amounts of research. We have 10 different modules, and all told, I believe there's about 145,000 entries in Jumpstart. The cool thing about it is you can enter 800 to 1,000 words in 1 hour.
How does that work? How can you do that so quickly?
So the words pop up on the screen and you can write each word as many different ways as you want by just keeping your hands glued on your steno machine. So it's really super quick, and I used it because I was trying to get a court reporter online to help us to caption. And it just dawned on me that the vocabulary in her dictionary was not very well rounded. And so I just started researching and creating list after list after list after list of vocabulary. And then I had her she kept putting this stuff in her dictionary, and lo and behold, we got her on air. And so, we have everything from environmental to food and health to media to sports to world. I mean, you name it. Anything you could possibly imagine is in Jumpstart.
Those are the modules.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 10 different modules.
And don't you get continuing education credits for using Dictionary Jumpstart?
Oh, good point. Yes, we have 5 of the modules that can earn you PDCs, which are professional development credits. You can earn 1.0 PDC for 4 of our modules, and I believe it's 0.5 PDCs for the phrases module.
It seems like it's a no-brainer that would be one of the best options for any reporter or captioner to take so that they can improve their dictionary and get their credits.
It's a win-win. It's totally a win-win. I mean, you're developing your dictionary vocabulary, you're getting credit for doing it, and of course you're going to have better real time, hands down.
Now, what about for students? Most of the schools are geared really for legal stenography, for court reporting. What would you recommend? In the perfect world, what would a school look like that would teach someone how to be a broadcast captioner?
The perfect world for training a captioner from the get-go to going on air would be literary. A captioner's world is very much literary. I haven't done Q&A in 28 years. So, and obviously not jury charge because I haven't been in a courtroom. So literary would be big. Dictionary development is humongous. Having a really well-rounded vocabulary, knowing about lots of different subjects. I was 8 classes shy of having my bachelor's degree and went back to school to obtain my bachelor's in real-time reporting. And I learned a lot in the 8 classes that I took. They were all 300 level college courses. And it was great for me to have even more vocabulary things and new things to learn because all of it helps as a captioner. There's things that would definitely be focused on more, but even if someone isn't quite sure, because when I was going through school, I didn't even know what captioning was. I mean, this was so early in the pioneer days of captioning that I didn't know about it obviously until after school. So do I regret the path of how things went? No, because the bottom line is you still have got to get up to 225 words a minute one way or another. So speed is definitely first and foremost because captioning, people are speaking so much faster now. And so to be able to get up to 225, 240, 260, 280, those are fabulous goals because that's always going to serve you well. Speed is key. Speed is key. Writing short is key. The less we write, the fewer mistakes you're going to see. I mean, it all kind of makes common sense, but it's going to take work to get there. No one's going to hand this to you on a silver platter. But when you have people that can guide you and tell you step by step how to get from point A to point B, it's really super beneficial and super rewarding. Plus, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're like, okay, I get it. I can see where this is going now.
So let's say there's a student currently enrolled in a court reporting program, and they realize now that they want to start studying because they want to become a closed captioner. Do you have a program that they can segue into?
I do actually. If they are at a certain speed, and I'd say that speed is probably around 200 words a minute. I've taken in, I believe, 2 or 3 students who were at about 200 words per minute, and they have come into Caption Masters, which is our 4-month course. Oh, by the way, that the Caption Masters course does earn you 2.8 CEUs, and while that may not mean a lot to a student, for a reporter who's transitioning, that's a huge chunk of CEUs. That's almost your whole 3-year cycle.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a big, but yeah, if they were around 200 words a minute, they could certainly come into Caption Masters and would start learning the ropes of the formatting of captioning, the dictionary building that we start doing, the different kinds of programming and content that we caption, and yeah, that's totally doable. I would say 200 words a minute would be the minimum that they could come in, though, because some of the content might not be doable at lower speeds.
What do you think about students practicing to television? Is that considered practice, or how can they actually make that a form of effective practice?
I think a way it could be a form of effective practice is if they record it. If they record, whether, let's say it's a local newscast, whether it's a new newscast or evening, whatever, DVR that, and they could write it. And then what I would highly recommend is that they listen to the newscast again with what they wrote to kind of get an idea of how much of this did I get. Because, of course, if you or I, Katiana, were practicing in Real-Time Coach or something like that, it's going to tell us what words we dropped. But when we're practicing to something like live television or even like a TED Talk or something like that, we might not have we're not going to get that concrete answer of you dropped this many words and this is the chunk that you dropped here and so on and so forth. So if you can listen to that again with what you wrote and kind of gauge how you did, I think that could be beneficial. I think you definitely have to have something to compare it to. Because otherwise you could look at it and go, hey, it looks pretty good, but when in reality you only wrote 90% of the newscast.
What speed should someone have to be? Because, the news is pretty fast.
It can be very fast. And that's kind of why I actually throw out there to do a noon newscast, because I feel like noon newscasts sometimes only have one anchor and it just seems a little bit more laid back than the early morning and the evening newscast. It might be just be my imagination. But repetition, of course, is key. So they could also write that half an hour newscast, which probably fast forwarded is probably only about 21 minutes or so. Edit everything, make everything look pretty, enter problem words numerous ways, go back and write it again and try and get more and more content each time you write the piece, with editing thoroughly in between each take.
I know you mentioned speed is key, shorter writing is key, and I want to know your philosophy on steno writing. Do you think phrasing is important, or do you think briefing is more important? What are some of the things that you think it takes to become a strong writer?
I'm a big fan of briefing for sure. In school, I was known as the brief form queen. People would come and say, hey, Anissa, what's your brief for this? What's your brief for that? Briefing is very, very important. As a captioner, we don't have as much phrasing as there is in court content. So I'm not going to say that I'm a great phraser, because captioning is just a little different when it comes to that. But definitely briefing. Briefing is huge. What inspired me to brief more and more and more was practicing to go to NonSteno in Berlin, which was 3 summers ago. And I was going to compete, because why not? I was there. I was also there for a family function also. Before I went, I practiced. And in my software, I could search what words I was writing in three strokes. And so then I made a list of all those and I briefed all of them. And I was gaining speed really, really quickly. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is working. This is so cool. That was really the ticket that propelled me to really start writing a lot shorter and inspiring the people that I work with, reporters and captioners, to write shorter.
I see on Facebook you post a lot of briefs on these really cute graphics. Are these briefs that you created, or are they briefs from a certain theory?
They're briefs I created, or else I tried to put, maybe I knew one or two. I do use briefpedia.com a lot if I've got like a family of words and I'm like, I've got to come up with something that's consistent for this specific family. I will seek out things that work. Thank you for recognizing the posts, and they're put out there to help people, so I hope that they are helping, and they're ways that I write that I hope will help people, even if they don't like those specific briefs that I've put out, that it might make them think, hey, but I could do this for me.
Right, like to inspire them to improve their writing.
Yes, shorter is always better.
So what about when it comes to numbers? How do you handle numbers in the captioning world?
Numbers. So this is why I'm a stenographer and not an accountant, because I love words far more than numbers. That being said, I have yet to find a reporter who says, I love writing numbers. Like, bring on numbers, man, let's go. I don't love numbers. I use the number bar. I know of a lot of successful captioners who either use the number bar, some of them don't use the number bar. They write everything, their numbers out. It's a personal preference, but I do. I use the number bar, and I used to do a ton of financial calls. I loved doing that kind of content. Are numbers my favorite? No. But of course, we all have to write them. So
let's talk about your favorite job as a captioner. What is the most memorable experience you've had working?
I have a couple. In that I do a lot of tech company captioning, and can be pretty starstruck when you see people that you see on TV and they're within 10 feet of you talking right in front of you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here right now. This is kind of surreal. But on a more personal level, in high school, I was in a group called Business Professionals of America and BPA. And that really helped me focus on business. I just had an awesome teacher who was the head of our chapter of BPA. And so I actually would provide the captioning for the Business Professionals of America conferences when they were in West Michigan, when I lived in Michigan. And so I would caption to the big screens. And I would literally get teary, because I would look at these young people, these high schoolers who are there competing in all these different contests for web design and accounting and all these other business related things, and I was thinking, this was me. I was here, this was where I feel like I really got a lot of guidance and motivation and had great instruction from my teachers. And so being a part of that again as an adult and providing captioning for that and becoming friends with the people who ran Business Professionals of America in Michigan, that was really important to me. And I missed them greatly, but I did hand them off in good hands to a friend of mine who was a captioner, and she took that job over for me.
Anissa, what are 3 non-steno things that you do daily that you attribute to your success?
I try to move in some way, shape, or form every day, whether it's just walking, getting a good cardio workout, whatever, move, stretch, do something, working out in some way, shape, or form every day. Positivity is huge. The saying that I grew up with is everything happens for a reason. You don't have to believe that if you don't want to, but when I kind of roll with this, it kind of puts things in perspective with the thought of this too shall pass, or I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. I'm supposed to be learning from this moment. I'm supposed to be, life is a journey, and I feel it's really important to learn along the way, because we weren't born with all the answers. And then number 3, when my feet hit the ground every morning, the first foot is thank and the second foot is you. And so I just start out every morning with thank you. Just thank you for the day. Thank you for this opportunity to learn. Thank you for, and you could say I'm saying that to God or the universe or whatever. It's just something that's just kind of ingrained.
Now, as a parting piece, what advice do you have for our listeners out there, for our future RealTimers out there? What is the best advice you can give them?
Become the best you can be, because it's going to feel awesome. Learn from people. Take the opportunity to learn from people. It sounds very cliche. We don't know what we don't know. But if you seek, people will help you. It's just a matter of letting people know that you have questions and that you need answers. So I would say that this is an amazing career. If I had to rewrite any chapter, nothing ever would have been changed because it's resulted in exactly where I am at this moment, talking to Katiana and learning about the awesome things that she's doing for all of you through Lady Steno, through helping you practice, helping you gain speed, helping you become really great in this profession. This profession is amazing. And the sky is the limit. I mean, the more that you persevere, the more that you practice, big, huge rewards await you. And I'm even going to go as far as to say things await you that you may never have even dreamt of. Really awesome things. So please just stay inspired, reach out to mentors or people that you, to myself, of course. I'm happy to help anybody. That wants to move their career forward in any way, shape, or form, become better in this profession. So stay positive, persevere, work hard, practice, and continue learning from awesome, podcasts from Lady Steno and from other educational things that are in our industry.
Thank you so much, Anissa, for all of the stories you shared with us, all of the tips, all of the advice. I really appreciate you being a guest on the Lady Steno podcast.
Thank you so much, Katiana, for having me. It was absolutely my pleasure, and I wish everyone the absolute best.